You've built your Revit model, you've added notes and annotation, and even added a detail or two. Now it's time to prepare your file for final output. The most common way to output a file in Revit or any other program is to simply print it. You can certainly print directly from any view you happen to be in on screen, and you can even plot several views at one time. However, the more professional way to print and the most typical way to print in architectural projects is to prepare a set of sheets. So in this movie, we're going to look at the creation of sheets, and I'm in a file called Adding Sheets for this purpose. Now, I'm just looking at a level 1 floor plan right here, but what I want to do is scroll down on the project browser to the Sheets branch of the browser. And if you recall, when we started this project earlier in the course, we started with a template that already had sheets in it. So that's a great way to get a leg up on the work that's required to build sheets. And you can see that there are several in here. There's a floor plan sheet and reflected ceiling plan and so on. And I can open any of these and see how they've progressed. So my floor plan sheet includes my first and second floor plan. And as you can see, they have kept up with our changes quite nicely. So everything is reflected on there. So let's look specifically at a few of the items. I want to focus your attention here on the section marks. Notice that this one says 1 on A6 and this one says 2 on A6. This one doesn't say anything at all. When you put a view on a sheet, Revit automatically fills in the references. It numbers the drawing and it fills in the references to the sheet. These two say they're on sheet A6. So if we scroll down here, there's my building sections sheet. I'm going to double click and open that. And you can see section number 1 and section number 2. Now we've got another section here in our project and perhaps I want to add it to this sheet. So if I scroll up over here, under sections, I have section at stair, and maybe I want to add that one to the sheet as well. There's a couple ways I can do that. The first way is to simply drag and drop it from Project Browser. So I'm going to grab it, drag, you see the little plus sign on my cursor, let go, place that view where I want it to go on the sheet, and if I zoom in, you'll see that Revit automatically numbered that one as number 3. If I go back to my A1 floor plans, notice that this designation has filled in as well as number 3. Now, suppose for whatever reason, my team has decided that they want to renumber these sections on the sheet. Maybe instead of going 1, 2, 3, I want it to go 1, 2, and then 3. You can do that on the Properties palette. So if I select this view, over here on the Properties palette is a detail number field. Now, I can't just make that 2 because I'll get an error message saying that that number is already in use. So I'll have to cancel there. So what I'm going to do is temporarily make that 4. Then I'll select this one, make that 3, which is now available, and then go back to the original one and make that 2. So it's a little bit of a workaround, but it does the job. So now I have 1, 2, and 3. And if I go back to the A1 floor plans, you can now see that all of these section marks have updated themselves accordingly. It's very powerful. Revit fills in all of that information for us automatically. It's doing the same here with our elevation markers. So all the sections and elevations will take care of themselves. Now, as we've been working on the project, we've added some additional views, and some of those might not actually already be on the sheets. So it's important to know how to add a sheet when we need to add another one. The easiest way to do that is to just right-click on the Sheets node on the browser and choose New Sheet. When I'm here, it will ask me to select the title block, and you can see I've got a few choices. I'm going to choose my E1. If the one you want isn't here on the list, you can simply load it right there. I'm going to use the E1 and click OK. If I zoom in on the title block, you're going to see a lot of information is already filled in here. The project number is filled in. We got a automatically generated sheet number. It put in the name of the project. It can do the name of the owner if you've filled that in, and the name of the sheet. Now, some of this stuff is not filled in yet. This says unnamed. So what I want to show you here is if I scroll down, there is that new sheet, A14 unnamed. You can either right-click it here and go to rename, or you can rename it right here. So I'm going to call this Power Plan. Now, because this is a power plan, maybe I don't want it to be in the A series. Maybe I want it to be in the P series. So I'm going to do P1. Now, when I enter those bits of information, notice that this updates automatically. Maybe I want to indicate who drew this file. Maybe I want to indicate who checked this file. Okay, so I can fill in any of that information. If I want to put in the issue date, some of these fields are actually global. So if I say that this is going to get issued later this summer and put in that date, what you'll see is if I go back to one of my other sheets here, like my floor plan sheet, if we zoom in on that same area there, it gets the same date. That date is a global setting that applies across the entire file. Checker was not a global setting. So this one still says checker. The other one says the value that I filled in, okay? So let's go back to our power plan one more time. It's still an empty sheet, so let's take care of that. There is more than one way that you can add a view to a sheet. We looked at one way, and that was drag and drop from Project Browser. The other way is to go to the View tab, and on the Sheet Composition panel here, we can click this Place View button, and then a list of views will be available, and we select the one we want. Click Add View to Sheet, and then place it where we want it to go. So let's do one more thing. Let's add a sheet index to our project here. I'm going to go to the Schedules dropdown, and I'm going to choose Sheet List. Now, a sheet list is just a special kind of schedule, and it's actually just scheduling the sheets that are in your project. So let me scroll down to the bottom here and just add a few simple fields like the sheet number, the sheet name, and maybe the issue date. So I'll add those three, click OK. I get a nice list of all the sheets. Go to one of the sheets where I want to place this sheet index. Maybe you have a cover sheet, or in this case, I'll just put it with the floor plans. And you scroll back up, you locate your sheet list, drag it, and drop it onto your sheet. And just like that, you have yourself a nice sheet index. Now, it makes all the columns a default width here. You can just grab these little triangles and drag those over, make those columns a little bit wider so that everything's a little easier to read. When you bring a schedule onto a sheet, if it gets too long and it runs off the bottom of the sheet, you can actually use this little control right here to split it into more than one column. And you can reset it by dragging with this little move control right here and just kind of drop it back on top of itself to heal that back up. So adding sheets is a pretty simple affair. We can add them with title blocks and fill in the information in those title blocks and then populate the sheets with the various views from our project. That'll give us a much more professional set of construction documents, and then we can gather up that collection of sheets for printing. Printing will be the subject of one of our future movies.